Another day, another election, this time high up in the kingdom of Bhutan. It's easy to miss this country. After all, they have very big neighbors. India and China put together, that's almost 3 billion people. And between them is Bhutan, home to just 800,000 people. Around half of them are eligible to vote. Today, they trickled into polling stations to elect the new government. But why is this election important? Well, a contested border is at stake here, but we'll get to that later. First, let's meet the hopefuls. On one side is Bhutan Tendril Party. On the other is the People's Democratic Party. Bhutan's media says the PDP has won. That's the party of Tshering Tobgay. He was Prime Minister from 2013 to 2018. The incumbent was not even in the picture. They were booted out in a pre-election, which brings us to Bhutan's biggest challenge, jobs. Bhutan doesn't have jobs. Youth unemployment is at 29%, meaning almost 1 in 3 youngsters is jobless. So what do? Most of them are trying to migrate, and Australia is a popular destination. From 2022 to 2023, almost 12,000 Bhutanese moved to Australia, 12,000, which may not sound like a big number, but in Bhutan, it's 1.5% of their population. That's a rapid brain drain. And why is it happening? Well, Bhutan is not an industrialized country. Average GDP growth is just 1.7%. Most of the money comes from 2 places, tourism and hydroelectricity. But both are limited. Tourism is just 1/3 of pre-pandemic levels, and hydropower is underexploited. It's at 10% of Bhutan's total capacity. So young voters want a major change.
Regarding the country's economy, during the past few years, I think there has been a major setback in our revenue as the pandemic has affected the lives of the people.
I hope they involve youths in the Gelfu City project, and I also hope they take action on this mass migration into other countries.
It's like a reality check for Bhutan. In 2008, the country introduced an interesting concept. You may have heard of it. Gross National Happiness, or GNP. Bhutan does not measure its GDP growth. Instead, it looks at happiness. Now, I know the obvious question. How do you even measure someone's happiness? Well, Bhutan has a method. They measure performance across 9 domains. For example, health is a domain. So is education, living standards, environment, and emotional well-being. That's how they measure happiness. Bhutan surveys 10% of the population. Based on their responses, the GNP is calculated. If it's 0, people are really unhappy. If it's 1, then they're perfectly fine. But the question is, has this strategy failed? Looking at the unemployment and brain drain, yes, it looks like it has failed. But for the record, Bhutan is not abandoning the concept. Both political parties are committed to gross national happiness. But I'm afraid changes are needed, because in the traditional sense, Bhutan is not really happy. Just look at the World Happiness Index. It places Bhutan at number 97. 97 out of 150 countries, that's where Bhutan is. Finland is number 1, Denmark is at number 2. So what's the takeaway? Low standards are not the key to happiness, because some things are universal, like having a well-paying job, or good infrastructure, or better connectivity. People need that. That's what the Bhutanese want too. And what about their foreign policy? None of the parties has proposed anything radical. Bhutan's top ally has always been India, and that is not expected to change. But there is a border to sort out. You see, China and Bhutan have not settled their border, just like India and China. But last year, some progress was made. Some unexpected progress was made. Bhutan's foreign minister visited China in October. He agreed to settle the border soon. But India will be worried about this, especially about the Doklam Tri-Junction. It's an area that borders China and Bhutan, this Tri-Junction. If China gets access to it, they will be closer to Indian territory. They can Russian troops and machinery. They can cut off India's access to the northeast, which is why New Delhi is worried. Now, after October, things have been quiet. We've not really heard anything from Bhutan or China. I guess the new government will decide and take this forward. So rest assured, both New Delhi and Beijing will be watching. And frankly, it's a sight to behold. The Bhutanese take great pains to cast their vote. They trek through mountains, Some cross rivers. That's how invested they are. Even the campaigns are special. You won't see random posters or campaign placards. There's a public notice board in towns, and that's the only place you can stick posters. Plus, it's all very quick. Voting was today. The media has already announced the winner, and the official confirmation will come tomorrow. In many ways, that really sums up life in Bhutan. It's simple and sorted.